Hey, Bernie Sanders, he says that the Republican Party is out of touch with public health care. He said this on Friday. And he cited opposition to the Obamacare repeal and replace efforts in a series of contentious town halls as a driving factor behind Republicans' inability to push through their little toy act called the American Health Care Act. So Sanders pointed out, every time Sanders says something like this, while I'm in complete agreement with him, I keep thinking that line from Bob Dylan, you don't have to be a weatherman to know which way the wind is blowing. Yeah, Bernie, for real, out of touch, Republicans, with everything, not just public health, everything. I still love him. Anyway, he told CNN's Anderson Cooper several hours after the Republicans said, we're not going to vote on it. He told Cooper, quote, I think one of the reasons this legislation went down today is that all over the country we had hundreds of thousands of people coming out to rallies. People began the process of fighting back. We've got to continue that. End quote. And I think we all understand now, as Sanders pointed out, the so-called American Health Care Act it had nothing to do with health care and everything to do with the tax break for the ultra-rich. And that's another thing. I just keep wondering, when will the unemployed miners and the desperate factory workers and all the people that Trump went around to these goddamn rallies and promised them the moon, and they believed it. They believed it. When are they going to realize that Trump's entire organization is comprised of millionaires and billionaires and Goldman Sachs people all over the place like goddamn rats in his administration, and nothing, absolutely nothing, will happen in this Trump era to raise the level of income or education or social safety net for the people who voted for him and desperately need it because they believe the bullshit. Lock her up, lock her up. USA, USA. Sanders also, and I know Bernie Sanders just gets so tired of these half-assed questions that come from these half-assed reporters. He was asked whether the failed bid to pass the American Health Care Act, whether that constituted a significant loss for Trump or a significant loss for Ryan. Like, who gives a shit? And he answered, quote, nobody really cares that if it's a failure for Trump or a failure for Ryan. What the American people are asking is, how does it happen that we're the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all people as a right? End quote. And he kind of laughed at, remember Trump's comment talking about healthcare bill is difficult, whatever the hell he said. Sanders said, quote, I thought it was rather amusing that a few weeks ago Trump said healthcare is really complicated. Well, for those of us who are on the health education committee, those of us who had dozens of hearings and markups, yeah, healthcare is pretty complicated. End quote. And the moron on February 28th, you remember what the orange moron said when it was at this gathering of the nation's governors, and Trump made that brilliant statement, quote, nobody knew health care could be so complicated. No, asshole. Everybody knows that health care law is very complicated for one simple reason. We don't have single payer. And as long as we have a profit motive involved in people getting ill, it's going to remain complicated, you half-witted moron. What does Trump know from health insurance? Zip, zero, nothing.